So I remember it was almost 3 years ago when Pernod Ricard, the French wine and spirits company, decided to use AI to drive its own sales. And the first use case we've been working on together was about the optimization of their sales force's stores visits. And historically, of course, the sales staff was leveraging its own experience and knowledge to choose the stores they were visiting and the sales pitches they were doing. So with the top management, we were a bit worried there would be a resistance. Not a revolt, but as we are French, at least a strike. And actually, these fears were totally unfounded. The sales force was welcoming the technology as they had the feeling it was augmenting, not replacing their experience and knowledge. And to foster this trust, Pernod Ricard made sure that you had business experts that were involved in the design of the algorithm. And we were deep diving each of the feedbacks of the first users. Pernod Ricard wanted to make sure that each recommendation would be really understood by the salespeople and was reinforcing each of their sales pitch. Looking at the trade-off between accuracy and explainability, they were putting a strong emphasis on the explainability. Instead of trying to get the full power of AI, they were trying to optimize what I call the human plus AI system. But, and it will be the core element of this keynote, beyond the performance, it had a drastic impact on the culture of the company. Pierre-Yves Calloc, the Chief Digital Officer of Pernod Ricard, told us a few months later, François, that's amazing. Since we have deployed AI, the salespeople are collaborating much more than they used to, and they are much happier. And it is true that each of us, when we are implementing AI, deploying AI, we are worried that the culture will be a make or break. But we are a few to have experienced that conversely, when you deploy AI, it has an impact on the culture of your company. And it is one of the main results of last year's annual study that we do jointly with MIT, and that we called the hidden cultural benefits of AI. So in the academic literature, when you talk about organizational culture, you look at 4 main levers: the collective learning, the collaboration, the role, the clarity of the roles, and the morale. And what we found in this study that was made with interviewing more than 2,000 managers, we found that for the companies that were deploying AI properly, meaning that they were at a point when the team were working more efficiently and the quality decision was higher, 97% of them were able to see a strong improvement on one of these dimensions and 51 on the 4. So let's go into a bit more detail on each of them. So first, let's start with collective learning. I could say that culture, the culture of a company to a certain extent, is the accumulation of learning that the old generation of employees will pass to the new one. And it's not just what you learn, but how the learning occurs. And let me give you another example, another French company, but you understand with my accent that I'm French, therefore I have a kind of a bias. Let's take Rexel. Rexel, the B2B distribution company. Rexel deployed a next best action tool. And it was very interesting to see that after this deployment, the new salespeople were rushing to use it, but the veterans were standing still. But a few months later, the veterans were rushing as well. And why? Because before the deployment of AI, the new salespeople were harassing the veterans with millions of questions all the time. And just after the deployment of AI, and as the quality of the algo was improving over time, the number of questions was trying. And therefore, the veterans were willing and pushing to train the algo much more than in order to make sure that they would focus then on their performance as the number of questions would be limited. And I think it's interesting to see that to a certain extent they were more likely and more willing to train their algo than to train their colleagues. For Excel, it was even better because instead of, let's say, leveraging veterans in a scattered way and so on, they were really gathering all the information in their database and really transmitting this collective learning. So better collective learning, better collaboration. If I take the case of KLM, I didn't do that case, but I've heard a lot about it. KLM deployed an algo that was predicting the checked-in passengers that were more likely to miss their flight and are putting a red sticker on their luggage. So if you have a red sticker on your luggage, it means something. But what we found is that through this red sticker, if you need, the baggage handlers need to unload the luggage, it's actually going much faster. And as it is going much faster, it is reducing the tensions you can find on the tarmac. It will reduce the delays, so the pilots are happier, and the flight attendants don't have to engage with frustrated passengers. So reductions of tensions on the tarmac, thanks to a better collaboration on the ground between the check-in and the baggage handlers. Third, role clarity. The US healthcare company, Humana, uses AI to help its pharmacists handle calls. The AI will pick up emotions, and through these emotions, they will then make recommendations to the pharmacist on the way they could have handled the calls. And it helps the pharmacist better understand their role and work, let's say, and better understand how to handle these calls. And the results were great, both in terms of NPS and in terms of role clarity for the pharmacist. Last one, morale. And I will take the example of the Swedish fast fashion retailer H&M. H&M deployed a pricing tool to optimize its end-of-season sales. They tried different things. They tried this just with employees, just with the algo, with the employees plus the algo. The last one was much better. But Artis Egami, the former CDO of H&M, was telling me, you know, people loved it. They found that their job was much more precise. They found that they felt reassured in the decisions they were taking. And they found that it was really fun. And not just because the UI, but it is important. The UI was mimicking the one of Tinder. But when we think about morale, it is not just because you feel reassured, backed up by the algo. There is a kind of pride. And Pierre-Yves Calloc from Pernod Ricard was telling me that his employees were feeling, yes, we feel proud to be in a company that invests in the latest technologies to help us make our job better and to be more competitive. And it is true that more and more AI is used to solve strategic and operational questions. For instance, at CBS, Rabah Sobaniaman, who is the Chief Analytics Officer, wanted to better understand whether the KPIs they were following to predict the success of a program schedule and the quality of the TV show were the right ones. She gave 50 years of KPIs and 50 years of consumer research to her analytical team. And out of the 4 KPIs they were using, they kept 2, removed 2, and added 3. So, and CBS is not the only one. 64% of the companies that use and deploy AI properly change their KPIs. And they feel much more ready to defend their core and to attack adjacencies. 1.5 times more, 2.7 times more, respectively. But we all know that AI is not a magic carpet. You need to experience it to believe it. And if I take the example of Repsol, the Spanish oil and gas incumbent, they've been launching more than 200 programs, digital and AI related, since 2018, from the production drilling, where they multiply by 2 the productivity, down to the personalized offers. They do 400 to 500,000 different offers every day, personalized to each client, and that help them grow their sales by 5%, which is massive. And so the companies we found in our research with MIT, the companies that do many changes to many processes are 1.5 times more likely to have the cultural benefits. So, as a conclusion, I would like to say we all know how difficult it is for CEOs and the C-suite to bring AI at scale. It's clear, it's very difficult. But for the company that takes the challenge, not only they will be more competitive, they will have financial benefits, but they will build a high-performance culture. And this claim, few technologies can make it. Thank you.